being an entrepreneur sounds cool, but the reality of building a business is very, very difficult. Every level that you hit, there's a lot of things that suck that you just won't want to do. What you're capable of is on the other side. I don't feel like it.
And if you're committed to what it is that you're trying to do, nothing is going to stop you from getting there.
Welcome back to another episode of Real Business Owners with myself, Trevor Cowley. Today we have an incredible guest, Daniel Allgaier.
Yep.
He's a fee-only advisor. He's one of the individuals that runs the Artstone Private Wealth Company. And this is going to be a unique and different conversation because it's not like the traditional, financial or wealth advisors. He goes about it a little bit differently and in a way that I think that is much better than the traditional model of financial advisors because, and we will get into that, obviously in this podcast, but there's common concerns that people have with financial advisors. Usually, in most cases, there's two people that most people will try to run from because they just think that all you want is their money. And it's people raising money for charities. You get nothing in return there. It's just
feel good.
Blessings and blessings and blessings in heaven, my friend. That's what you will receive, and it'll be abundant. And so, other than that, it's usually financial advisors, right? Like some people are like, "Hey, I'm a financial advisor." It's like, "Oh, hey, there's my friend over there. I got to go," because the perception in the marketplaces, man, these guys are just going to try to take my money. And there's very little trust in the industry. Obviously, trust is a big deal when you're talking about, money and somebody's finances and their wealth. And usually when they're starting to talk to guys like you, it's that they're going to have to, do something different than what they've done in order to leverage their money in a manner in which it has the ability to multiply, right? And so obviously that's why people reach out to advisors. What makes you different than a traditional financial advisor that people want to run from?
Yeah, so just on the initial here, you're saying that kind of the fee only. So I don't need to manage anyone's assets to give them advice.
Yeah.
So the way I structured it allows for somebody to come in and say, "Hey, look, Daniel, I just want the right advice. Maybe I'm in the accumulation phase. Maybe I'm building something, but I want to have somebody in my corner that's going to help me navigate the taxes, the investments, the estate planning, all that complexity. But I don't have that lump sum of money that needs to be managed." So there's that aspect.
So some people think, like only rich people need an advisor.
Yeah.
Like I don't have a ton of money, so I don't need an advisor.
Yeah, let's say, I'm 35 years old.
Yeah.
I've worked my way up in a company or I own a business and now I'm starting to make money, but in the process of making money in my business, I'm putting back money into the business to help it grow.
Yeah.
I don't have a lump sum sitting in the bank saying, "Hey, invest this."
Yeah.
Something you can still help you.
Yeah.
Because you still have problems that need to be solved.
The big problem, which is what happens when you're no longer working. How do we stretch a dollar at that point? I mean, there's a few concerns, that I have, obviously at 41 and I don't necessarily have these concerns for myself, but I just have these concerns in general. It's like, you look at the cost of goods, you look at inflation, you look at, as we talked about prior to hopping on the podcast, tax brackets and how, if you look at historical data, they haven't gone down, they've only gone up. Right. The United States government is continuing to ship out billions of dollars overseas and we're trillions of dollars in debt. So the only way to manage that is either spend less or get more. And that's it. And I don't see the government spending any less anytime soon. It's stimulus. Let's throw more money at the economy, getting to the point where it's just kind of delaying the inevitable, where prices continue to skyrocket. And, it concerns me for people like myself that aren't in my type of a situation where everything's paid for. You've got money in the bank. You've got things cash flowing. Some of those things obviously give me a level of comfort. But at the same time, my concerns are, even if people are 35 or 40 years old right now and they don't have a lot of money or a big chunk of money sitting there, what's going to happen in 20 years or 25 years? Like, you're going to have to do something, and you have to understand your personality, really. Like, I already know I'm not the business owner type. I'm not going to take this and go start a business. Cool.
Yeah.
Because there are some people that are like, hey, I'm just going to work 40 years. I'm going to get a good job. I'm going to try to save my money. And that's what my life is going to be. They've already predetermined that. And so it's planning for the inevitable, because the inevitable is just that. It is inevitable. We will meet that day at one point. And I just don't think enough people are future casting or forecasting, 10 years, 15, 20 years. I know a lot of people that are 50 to 55 years old right now that are in a mad scramble to try to do whatever they possibly can in a 10 or 15 year window to save up or invest and get a big enough return. So by the time that they're 65, that they have the ability to retire.
Yeah.
And I've also seen people get so desperate at 55, 60 years old with 100 or 200 or 300 grand that they've saved up their entire life, starting to play the game where they're looking for home runs or moonshots.
Yeah.
Obviously the moonshot is like, super unlikely that it's going to work, but if it does, it's a moonshot. So like, do you really want to gamble $200,000-$300,000 on a moonshot? Because it's either that or start planning in advance. And that brings me to one of my first questions is like, what is some of the advice that you would give to people with that window of opportunity closing and they only have, 10, 20 years left? Are there riskier options that you would maybe advise to them to say, hey, if you put your money here, it has the ability to compound much quicker if you're willing to ride the roller coaster. If you want something a little bit more sure, like navigate through that. Like, I'm maybe somebody that's 50, 55 years old coming to you and being like, bro, I need help.
Yeah. So when it starts out, you have to understand your numbers. You have to understand what you need and where you're at. So the main question you're going to have to answer is, what do you actually need to live on? Because if you can't work from that, you don't really have anywhere else to go, right? Because if you come to me and say, hey, Daniel, I have this much money in the bank, that might be enough, but it might not be, depending on how much you need to survive.
Yeah.
So if somebody's like, hey, look, we're 50, 55, we don't have that much saved, but we also don't need that much to live on, they might be okay. But if somebody's like 55 and they're like, hey, we've got payments coming out our ears and, we're living up to what we earn,
your capacity,
then you're probably in an issue. You probably have an issue right there. So, but when we look at this and say, hey, look, if you're in that point in time, first you need to find what your actual number is, like your burn rate. How much do you actually need to survive, and what you plan on?
60 grand a year.
60 grand a year.
Let's
so
say that.
You back into that. You could do the simple math of like the 4% rule. Like, hey, if we have a portfolio size of X and I need 60,000 a year, what's that? 2.4 million just to pull 4% out and not really touch the principal in theory. I think another problem people get is that they look at retirement. We'll call it just that.
Is that a high interest savings account that you're talking about? At 4%?
No, so that's like in the 90s, there was a study done. I don't remember who it was, but they said, hey, look, there's a 4% withdrawal rate rule. So you could pull 4% out of an account as long as it's moderately invested. You should theoretically never run out of money. Now, some people can stretch that up to like a 5%, not a guaranteed return on your account, but just, hey, of the account balance, I'm pulling out just 4%. I'm just shaving 4% off every year, and it should last into, through death.
So usually, like how I do it is I have a high yield interest savings account on the money that I want to make sure is like dry gunpowder. Yeah. So for opportunities, that doesn't mean that you should just have your money just sitting in a savings account. There's still inflation. The money's still whittling away and dying.
Right.
So my hedge against that is if I want to have dry powder, I want to keep at least $500,000 in the bank. Yeah. And then everything else above that gets allocated to different investments or whatever it is. But that $500,000 makes me 4%.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like I get paid 20 grand a year for my money just to sit in the bank. So that's why I thought maybe when you were referencing that number, because you can get that stuff if you have a decent money in the bank, go talk to your banker and say, hey, what's up with your high yield interest savings account? Do I qualify for something like that?
Yeah. And right now that's something that's available, like a 4% high yield savings.
Yeah.
And you got to remember too, you use that like gunpowder for opportunity. That's like within 12 months, like that money you want to use within 12 months. Like if you had a lump sum of money, you're like, hey, I need to use this within the next 12 months, or I'm planning to use it, probably shouldn't be invested, because there's a likelihood you wake up tomorrow and the market's down, 10%.
Yeah.
And then your 500,000 is now 450. And you're like, well, shoot, I was planning for 500 and now I don't.
Yeah.
So yeah, it kind of goes to
You have to be able to, you can't get on the roller coaster ride and be a little nervous when it's having ups and downs, right? That is the market. There is 100%. Roller coasters, but again, historically, you go back far enough, the roller coaster goes up, it goes down, it goes up, it goes down. But when you continue to back up, it's like still moving in that upward direction over the course of time.
Yeah. So you look at that and you would say, hey, let's say if I was somebody that was, early 50s, I would still stay aggressive, because your timeline is not retirement. Your timeline's death, because you don't need any more money when you're 6 feet under. Like that's, who cares how much you have then? Nobody. Yeah. Right. So you say, hey, look, I'm not aiming for have money grow until 65 and stop. You're like, I got to have it sustain me forever. Yeah. So people that age are like, I need to go more conservative. You really don't. Now, if you need the money immediately, like you said, your dry gunpowder, that should be more conservative, because the last thing you want is like, hey, I need 60 grand this year. Now I only have 54 grand. Okay, so we got to pinch somewhere, right? So as you get closer, but I don't think anybody, if you're 50, you plan to retire at 65, you don't need to be.
You don't need to have it all
at
65, right?
You need an emergency. You need an emergency fund for the stuff that's like going to happen, like the transmission goes out or the furnace or whatever.
Yeah.
But then above that, it should be working for you and growing. And it should still be pretty aggressive.
Yeah. I mean, there's people, I mean, obviously there's Social Security and things like that. So if you're married and both of you guys paid into Social Security over the course of your working life, and you need 60 grand a year to survive, $2,500 a month might come in from Social Security.
Yeah.
So the gap truly is only, $3,500 a month or something like that.
Yeah.
That you have to figure out. And I really didn't think about, the timeline of 65, because usually, and I'm guilty of it, I just barely did it. I'm thinking like we have to close the gap in 15 years or 20 years, when the reality is if that money's still allocated in certain accounts, it still has the ability to continue to grow at 70, 75, 80, and continue to stretch those dollars through that next 10 or 15 years. So in reality, we just opened up the window to like a 30-year window by adding those extra. So even if you are 50, 55, 60, it's not like you got to get rich in 5 years or in 10 years. You may have to work till you're 70 or whatever to continue to contribute to be able to support that last, 15 years of your life. But truly, that's the idea. Is even just in this podcast, I'm like, I didn't really think of it like that. And it's like, that's what's good about having somebody that you have the ability to lean on and be like, hey, what's the deal? What do I need to be worried about? What should I be doing? And so what's the, is there a traditional path that you like best? And then there's certain unique situations where you got to get a little creative with them and ask what the risk tolerance is, and then kind of start making some decisions? Or is it like an a la carte type thing? Hey, this is what we do. This is what I would recommend. If you want to go riskier, you can go here, and then kind of give them the freedom of choice at that point and where they want to place the money. Or
yeah, we could. I'm more of like the crock pot, set it. I guess not crock pot, because you're going to check it periodically, right?
Yeah.
But it's like, hey, look, how do you want to be allocated? 90% stock, 10% bonds. And historically, we're going to see this type of return over a long period of time if we're allocated that way. So we'll set something up.
Typical? Is kind of what you want to lean on is 90-10, 80-20, somewhere around there?
Yeah, you'll probably get to there 90-10. Younger, if you're in your 30s, you should probably be 100% stock. You have plenty of time to ride the ups and downs.
Yeah.
And the younger you are, the better the downs are.
So explain buying bonds. So what does that mean to a kindergartner doesn't know anything about them?
In the simplest form, it's just bonds are more steady. They're not going to move as much as stocks, so they're less risk. They're still going to go up and down. Now, I wouldn't put it on anybody to go out and buy individual bonds unless you wanted to, but the same way you can go buy like a mutual fund or an ETF that is a group of stocks, you can buy a bond mutual fund or ETF. So get online, ChatGPT, Gemini, whatever, and say, hey, give me a good bond ETF, and you'll probably get a list of 10. So you go select something like that, and they'll have 2-year to a 10-year or something like that, to where it will have the ability to say, hey, this is going to have a little bit more return, but it's more safe.
Yeah.
So
And when you're doing the bond stuff, is it similar to, like local banks where they say, hey, we'll pay you X amount if we've kind of, it's not freezing your money, but essentially
Like a
like,
CD. Different because you don't have that limitation of pulling in and out. So with a CD, you're like, here's a 6 month, 12, 18 month,
2 year,
2 year,
yeah,
24
where you're
months.
not
So
touching it. Yeah.
you'll put it in, you'll get a little bit of interest, and then you'll get your principal back at the end, or you'll get the whole interest at the end, whatever it's set up. But this is just different. Say, hey, look, I go buy a bond ETF. I'll buy into that bond ETF. I'll hold it for as long as I want. If I feel like I need to change, I can change at any time. Not limited to like, hey, it's got to stay 10, I got to say 6 to 12 months.
So what are the bonds? When they say bonds, what does that mean?
So it'll be those ETFs will go out and either get corporate bonds, so big companies that issue bonds, they'll go out.
Is that like debt?
Mm-hmm. Be a company debt,
Right.
they'll buy that.
Yep.
They'll do treasury bonds, something
Yep.
backed by the government. A treasury bond would be a little bit more secure because it's government and they can print money.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but that's what you're doing with it, just purchasing some of that. And again, using an ETF is your best bet because you don't have to go out and pick individual bonds. You can say, hey, I want a corporate bond ETF. You, again, type it in Google and it'll come back to the list.
How do the returns happen? Is it like
Similar to
this
stock.
this company is paying their debts
Mm-hmm.
and you're buying the bond? In other words, are you participating in purchasing some of that debt?
No, so the ETF or the fund manager, they'll gather all that together and you just buy a slice of that pie. So they're navigating all of that.
The pie is the debt.
Yeah. Yeah. So they're saying, hey, look, I want a share of that. Similar if you to go buy like shares of Apple, Amazon,
So
Google.
if there's $1 trillion in debt here,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the pie, and I say that I want to put $1 million in bonds, essentially what I'm doing is I'm taking care of $1 million of that debt, and then as it gets paid back, then I'm earning money on the payback. How does the earning happen on bonds when bonds are debt? That's the only thing I haven't understood about bonds. I know bonds are debt,
Mm-hmm.
but it's like you're buying into debt.
Yeah.
So essentially, my thought would be, if you're buying into debt, you're making money when the debt is realized or made whole, or payments coming in to make it whole.
Mm-hmm.
Like what determines the rate of return? Like for instance, on a bond, is it the riskier the debt, the better the payouts, or?
Yeah. So there'll be a correlation there between risk and timeline.
Okay.
So like if it's a higher risk, and I don't remember the actual term, there's a higher risk bond.
Yeah.
If it's a higher risk, it should produce more, right? If you have bad credit, you're probably going to be paying a higher interest rate on your car loan.
Yes.
Same thing with a business. If you're maybe a more risky type business, then you're probably paying back more interest. So as you take on that debt or that participation bond, then you should get a higher return on that.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's the venture, the bonds that are more high risk.
Who determines the risk on the debt?
It would probably be the banker that funds it. But if for a normal individual like you or I, if we just want to keep it simple, we would either go to Vanguard or Fidelity and just buy a Vanguard ETF. We don't have to worry about vetting all of that.
They do the
deep.
vetting process.
They have a fund manager and a process that would do and gather those assets. For most people, that's not really what they want to do. They just want, hey, I need some bonds. So they'll go and they'll purchase a bond ETF.
Mm-hmm.
But the fund manager, the company, they'll be making sure they're tracking or making sure
Is our bonds very similar to stocks where you can move in and out very quickly if you wanted to?
Yeah.
Not saying obviously that's ideal. I mean, if you're trying to grow wealth or build retirement, you're not wanting money in and out and pulling from those accounts. But does it give people still the freedom to decide, like, hey, I still have access to my money, I shouldn't touch it, but if I'm in a pinch, then it's
100%,
still there?
100%. It's the same thing if you were to go buy, because you'll have shares that you can buy. So you say, hey, this bond is trading at $50. I want to buy 100 shares. And so $5,000, you'll purchase those shares and you'll own 100 shares of that bond. And then as that bond increases, the shares will be, $51, $52. The bond will go down to $49, $48, whatever it may be. So
I have to show you after the podcast some old money that I purchased.
Okay.
And some of them are old railroad bonds.
Bond certificates.
And they're super fucking cool, dude.
Yeah, there's a lot of
they look like.
Yeah. And the explanations are at the bottom and everything.
It's like with the technology we have versus what they had, like those things look so fucking cool. And it's like so simple, but yet organized. And it's like, hey, here's your proof
Because you know
that you own X amount of shares of the railroad. So I bought shares, and there's bonds, and there's actual money, like old.
Did you know some guy was standing at a press just like pressing those every time?
They're like, how much you weigh? 450. That's not enough. We need a 500-pound press. You know, you got to push down hard on these. So let me ask you this: what makes you different, like, than the financial advisor that's, you know, in his 10-piece suit and, you know, driving the nice car, which ultimately makes people think like, damn, well, they're making a lot of money managing my money. So how much money are they making off of me giving them my money in order to try to grow wealth? And so you don't know what you don't know. So what happens is your brain starts just making up things, right? Like, oh, well, they're probably feeing me to death. And all of that stuff is true. All of that stuff happens in the financial world, in this game. Like, there's good cops, bad cops, good teachers, bad teachers. There's good advisors, there's bad advisors, there's good account. Like, we can go across the board in any industry, and there's going to be good and bad in all of them, right? But for me personally, I struggle with the whole flashy lifestyle financial advisor type thing, you know, when in reality, to me, that's more of a put off for me, because it's like, dude, you're showing that you make a ton of money off of managing other people's money. So like, that means that you're taking more than just a sliver, you know, it's nickel dime until they,
or you have so many people that you're under. How can you truly serve them?
Yeah.
Right? If you had truly 200 clients, you couldn't do real planning for them.
Yeah.
Like, it'd be impossible, because you would do nothing but be at the computer or working or meeting with them.
There's a lot of financial advisors that really don't have to do a whole lot of planning, because they're within inside of a model that the planning is already kind of done for them. And they're like, yo, when you get clients, plug them into this.
Yeah.
This is where we're getting the biggest kickbacks right now.
Yeah.
They're running a program that if you do this, it's almost like doctors with prescriptions, bro. Like, they get kickbacks from pharmaceutical companies based upon
medical sales reps, drive nice cars.
I'm telling you, man. I'm telling you. So, like, with your approach, did you play the old game ever at one point as a traditional financial advisor? And if so, what were some of the things that were off-putting to you about the industry as a whole? Because every industry has some darkness, right? As we just talked about.
100%. So for 7-8 years, I worked on the we'll call it the traditional side of the advisory world, where I worked with those that are entering retirement. So pre-retirees, 55 plus. The main thing was where kind of what makes me different, though, is I saw that, and I was like, if you would have had somebody give you advice 20 or 30 years before, how much different would today look, right? If somebody had given you like good advice 20 or 30 years instead of at age 55, what could you have done? We're not talking so much about here's your limit and it's maybe less than what you thought. We're now expanding that limit to where you have a real understanding of what the future looks like. So that was the first part. Yeah. And I did work for a firm that had, that was that traditional advisory sense. Like, hey, look, here's your list of products that can be used, and for some people it works. 100%.
Yeah,
but it's
when
not
it's cookie cutter.
Yeah,
it's gonna still work for some.
For certain people, it fits really well.
Yeah,
right. If they need, you think about like a pension. Essentially, a pension is just an annuity product. Like, here's your guaranteed amount of money for the long as you live.
Yeah,
and they know you're gonna live and they don't know how long you're gonna live. It's not like there's anyone to put a hit on you. But they're like, we assume you're living, 20 years past this date or so.
Yeah.
So
and show off of average life or whatever, like 79 or something like that.
Yeah, insurance companies don't lose money.
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
they're the biggest buildings in every city, brother.
You say, who owns the stadiums?
Yeah.
Who has their name on professional soccer teams?
Yeah. Banks and anybody that's dealing in the financial world.
Yeah. So there's that. But again, that's not for everybody. So somebody that might need an annuity needs that structure to say, hey, look, here's your allotted amount of money every month. You can't spend more, you can't spend less. As long as they have those guardrails, they're like happy, and they're never going to outlive their money, which is great, right? So working in that, but I looked at that and said, hey, look, what I want to do is work with those people on the younger age and give them the advice to make the difference. So when they're 55, they're not like now finally getting advice.
So you just saw the result of individuals not necessarily thinking about it until it keeps them up at night. And then now they're ready to start planning. And you're like, man, all this could have been avoided. I need to find a different market and try to catch people sooner.
Yeah. And not so much just it was more so like, look, if people always like just brushed under the rug. And they also think traditionally is I don't get an advisor until I retire or I have a boatload of money. And again, the way I set it up is there's a planning fee that somebody would pay if they don't have assets. They're going to get the same advice that somebody would with assets. That makes sense, right?
Yeah.
You know, if you're a high earner in your 30s and you're like, look, I've got to figure out, retirement planning. I got to figure out my estate. I've got to take care of manage the taxes because I have a high income. I'm going to be paying taxes every single year. I want to pay the right amount of taxes. And then they're like,
the least amount is the right amount.
So,
least amount possible for the most part.
Could be. And they're like, but then I also got kids. I want to worry about college savings. I want to make sure that they're set up and everything's done right. And I can still advance my career.
Yeah.
I still want to continue to increase my earning power. So
what do you see is most common with high income earners that aren't managing their money properly? Why do you think that is?
I think the biggest thing is that high income allows you to hide mistakes. Because if you make a healthy income, you generally feel like you have more flexibility and more time. Because money solves a lot of those problems.
False safety net.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Hey, if we don't have a proper emergency fund, but if the water heater goes out, we'll just swipe a credit card and then we'll pay it off in a few months. Whereas financially, you should have an emergency fund so that's not a hiccup, right? And you
expect the unexpected.
Yeah, because it's going to happen.
Yeah.
And then you think about this too, is like, oh, we'll delay savings because my earning power will just increase. I'll just earn more later and then I'll save more later. But right now we're in the thick of it. So I got to take care of stuff.
Yeah.
I got to,
I'm in buying mode.
Lifestyle,
the Joneses,
upgrading things,
lifestyle
coming into new money, and you're actually more focused on enjoying the fruits of your labor than making sure that the fruits of your labor have the ability to help you enjoy life forever.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And I've been on the part of it too, where somebody's like that, because what's the movement, like the financial independence, retire early? I think that's kind of stupid.
What is it?
That financial independence, retire early. Or like, we're going to spend nothing while we're young. We're going to build up a huge nest egg and then we're going to retire at 40. Like, how stupid is that? Like, if I would have done that when I was 30, how much would I have missed? Right? I'm not a fan of like, let's live bare bones and then eventually get to one day where we can enjoy ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
But what if we were smarter during that time to that way we built that financial independence at 50 instead of 40? But when you were 30 and 40, you had a lot of great experiences.
You enjoyed it the whole time.
Yeah. Like, you got to do the things with your family. You got to experience what you want to experience, and then you still reach that goal. So, yeah, that's the biggest part as I see is like, again, going back to this is high income earners, they have this issue where they're like, hey, this income solves a lot of problems, but it doesn't solve the problem of time. Like, you can't go back and earn money on money that wasn't invested.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I could see that. I mean, it's very rare that you're going to get somebody that is a high income earner and they're on the top of the mountain feeling really good about themselves. That's going to say, you know what? I need to be smart about the money that I'm making right now because it might only be a window of a few years that I make this type of money. Who knows what's around the corner? The unforeseen things, the AIs and the technology and things can get taken out. Or income can spike. Everybody made great money in 2020, 2021 when money was abundant. I was talking to somebody yesterday on the phone. He said, I started my business in January of 2020. And I said, that was a great time to start a business. And he kind of started laughing. He goes, actually, it really was. And I said, I know. That's why I said that. I wasn't saying that
like a joke.
It wasn't a joke. It's not the best time to start a restaurant, but
like a trampoline park,
and outside 6 feet, COVID distance trampolines or something.
Corn maze.
Yeah, it would have been great. People were itching to get out, but his was like a water solution company or whatever, water softeners and stuff like that. So there's a lot of industries that went that skyrocketed in 2020, 2021 with the money that was flowing with the stimulus, all of that. And I think a lot of people made decent money over that period of time, a couple year window. And then they're now starting to feel the brunt of things starting to kind of subside because they had an expectation that this is what business is and I'm feeling good and we're on this upward trend.
Yeah.
And by default, you're not going to say, well, it could go down. Like, people aren't trying to think negatively. Everybody wants to think positively, which is awesome. I think everybody should err on the side of positive just for quality of life.
100%.
Being a pessimist doesn't do you any good because it's just going to ruin your quality of life. And at the end of the day, most of the stuff we're pessimistic about doesn't even come true, doesn't even happen. And so we might as well err on staying as positive as we possibly can, but at the same time, trying to be a realist. That it's like, yes, I'm making great money. What can I do right now? And this is, to me, a positive thought is like, what can I do to make sure that this money and this window of opportunity that I have where I'm making incredibly good money, that it secures me and my family forever.
Well, you mentioned it earlier, like that dry gunpowder.
Yeah.
Like you hold that intentionally.
Yeah.
Right. And if you don't build that, things are going to come and go. Right. Business opportunities. So, let's say you are in a position, you're VP or director level or president of a company, but you listen to this podcast because you have that in the back of your mind, like, I'm going to start a business one day.
Oh, there's plenty of sales guys,
it's like,
stuff like that listen to the podcasts that make great money.
Yeah,
but they don't own their own business.
Yeah, and that's fine. But like, if you have that inkling, like, hey, I'm gonna do this one day, like that requires capital, requires money, and you can go out and get you can borrow it. But if you don't put things in place, or if you do put in place, how much better is it for you that you have that structure to say, hey, look, I have this dry gunpowder ready to deploy, so that when opportunity comes, I can take it.
Do you see people pulling money for investment opportunities and call you as an advisor? And just so that you guys know, Daniel, it's a flat fee advisory type structure. It's not, hidden fees. It's not, oh, I make way more when you make way more, none of it's X amount. Was it?
Yeah, so there's a minimum planning fee of $3,000 per year.
Yeah,
and if you don't have managed assets, once you bring over managed assets and that's involved, then it goes to a pretty standard 1% annually AUM.
Gotcha.
And then it tiers down as accounts grow bigger.
Gotcha.
So if you have if it's at $1 million, between $1 million and $3 million, it's at 0.85 annually, and then $3 million plus is 0.7.
Gotcha.
Annually.
So 0.7 of the total annually, but obviously at that point it should be producing 5 to 10 to 12% or something like that. So you're getting
easily
roughly 1% of the 10 or 12 or something like that. So essentially the idea is to have it be close to 10%
of what
of your fee.
Yeah, so what the fee would be. Yeah. So let's just on $1 million, it's a 1% on $1 million, so that would be like a $10,000 annual fee.
Gotcha.
So you'd be expecting that it's billed once per quarter.
So what I mean by that is, for instance, if somebody's making 10% on their $1 million, they're making $100,000 per year. And
I get you.
So that's 10% of the upside, right? It could be 10 to 15% roughly.
Yeah.
Give or take, depending on whether you're at 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9, 10% in terms of your annual returns.
Yeah.
Right. So do you see people start to go down this path and then make the mistake of turning around and
the investing side? And then
they're starting to go good. It's a couple years into it, and then they're just patience is a big thing, bro. And nobody has it. Everybody wants what they want, and they want it right now. We talked about that. This is why people aren't planning for the future, because they're living so much in the now.
Yeah.
And they live in the now so much that the future never's better. So the now that you're currently experiencing is the same experience that you're going to experience the now 10 years from now, because you're not making any adjustments. You're not forecasting or future thinking enough to say, okay, where do I want to be in 5 or 10 years? What can I do today, right now, to make sure that when I land 5 years down the road or 10 years down the road, I'm in a better situation, right?
Yeah, I've seen and had clients in the past that have been like that, where they're like, they're all in, and then something flips, and they're like, we need to be all out. And it never ends up well, because you don't know when the good and when the bad is going to come. It will come eventually.
Do you ever see people have the market like hit an extreme peak and they're just like, I want to pull out. It's hitting a high.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to come back in later or whatever,
more so on the downswing. People will ride the high and they'll look at that and they'll be like, oh, this is good. This is good. Some people worry. They're like, this might be too good, but then they don't ever have a point in time where like, I'm going to jump off now. They'll just continue to ride the wave up. But as it goes down, people get way more scared. And they'll pull out. Usually if somebody's to that point, obviously try to talk them off the ledge, be like, look, this is a normal market cycle.
Yeah.
The market historically, the market's going to decrease by 6% at least once per year.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes more frequently, but in average 12 months, January to December, it's going to drop by at least 6%. And that's, hard for some people, so.
Well, I mean, if you're making, 5-10% a year.
Yeah. The best
overall, I mean, you're still going to end up being money ahead, but
yeah. And if you look at it in the short view of like, hey, these 4 months I didn't do well. Yeah. But then if you look at another 4 months, if you look at, let's just like,
they're looking at right
marketing.
now,
it's like good marketing. Hey, we're the number one rated bath cleaning service for the last 10 years. But for the previous 10 years, we were the worst. Or, our returns during this period of time were amazing. But, you shift it by 6 months one way or the other, and it's not as good. So, it's just like.
Depends on when you're scoping it out.
Yeah,
be careful
100%.
when you're scoping.
Yeah.
Like people make the dumbest fucking decisions when they're at a low spot, bro. And there's blood in the streets. So they're like, okay, let's just add my blood to the streets and pull out my money, And I'm guilty of it, bro.
Yeah.
I'm guilty of it. But I was playing a different game.
Because you listen, like you get like everything, if you're listening to like the news or everything else, you're just inundated with the bad stuff. You're like, well, it's all going down.
So during COVID, bro, like I became a stock expert.
Yeah.
Duh. Didn't everybody? So they thought
when it tanked,
and you bought at a low,
you're like,
it only has the ability to go up. So all of a sudden you're high on your own shit.
Yeah.
And you're just like, fuck. I'm gonna start smoking just so I can stare at a screen and start. Man, why haven't I been doing this forever? I just
haven't heard of NVIDIA before. Fools.
NVIDIA's the one that fucking costs me, bro.
Yeah.
So when everything hit the ground and below the ground,
Mm-hmm.
the hotels, the airlines, and what else was it? It was hotel, airlines, and cruise ships.
Mm-hmm.
So like they just got taken out, and I was just watching their stocks just plummet. There's no sales, no nothing. Everything's on a freeze. But I'm like, dude, the world isn't going to continue forever with no travel. And when this is opened up and freed up, everybody's going to get out of the house and go travel.
Yeah.
Because that's like cabin fever, right? So I'm like, cool. So I threw like 90 G's, like just kind of play money, just messing around,
Yeah.
And within 3 months, it was at 180 G's. And so I'm just like, okay, I made 100% on my money in 3 months. What are these people talking about 5 or 10% returns for? This shit's easy, And then, so from there, I'm feeling pretty cocky. I have a buddy fly in and, we're chatting. He's starting to mess around with it a little bit, trading. And he goes, you ever played options, bro?
Oh yeah, that'll get you.
I was like, is there other options outside of the stock market? Tell me about those options, where you do the calls or the puts, right? You're betting whether that company's going to go up or whether that company's going to go down, right?
Yeah.
And so you're not necessarily invested in the business. That's you buying stock where you own shares and you're invested in the business. When you're playing options, you're betting on whether that business is going to go up or it's going to go down, right? And so what some people do is they check out the market and they're up early saying, what's the bad news out there in the world on these companies before it gets too crazy and everybody's aware of it. They'll start doing the calls or the puts depending on whether they're betting. If it's good news, dude, let's go ahead and bet on that because it's probably going to go up.
Yeah.
And so how options work is, you buy a contract and there's a length of the contract, right? So you could buy a 1 month or you can buy a 6 month. The longer contract that you buy, the less the payout.
Yeah.
Because it's less risky.
Yep.
Over the course of 6 months, it's probably going to go up even if it went down for a little bit. And so the likelihood of hitting is obviously greater the longer the contract. But at the end of the day, I was wanting to gamble.
Yeah.
You know, I was wanting to play. So I was like, I'm up 100. I'm up 90 G's. I'm like, this is house money at this point. I'm just goofing off. And he's sitting in my office and he's like, bro, get NVIDIA. Buy a contract on NVIDIA or whatever. And I think it was sitting around like $80 or something like that, $70, $80 a share. Now it's like 180, 190 or something. But so I log on, I do it, buy a $50,000 contract. And he's like, holy shit. And I was like, what, bro? And he's like, bro, that's a lot of money. And I was like, you're not betting big or you're not playing big? And he's like, dude, it's just like a couple $1,000, bro. Like nothing, not 50 grand. And so just to mess with him, I log right back in and I bought another 50 grand just because he was like shitting his pants, right? Or right before I did that, I said, but you believe in it, right? You believe in this pick? And he said, yeah. So I bought another 50 right in front of him. So now I'm making him sweat because now he's second guessing like, is it the right pick? There's 100 grand on the line now.
Yeah.
And then literally it was right after that, I bought another $25,000 of the exact same NVIDIA. So I was 125 grand deep. Right. And he's like, bro, it's good. It's good. And so a couple weeks in, we're seeing red, bro.
Yeah.
We're seeing red. And every single time I'm refreshing my screen, bro, the changes in the numbers on one refresh, I'd be down $3,500. 10 seconds later, I'm up $2,000. The swings were so drastic on every refresh. And then it got to a point where I was down to like 50 G's. And I'm like, bro, I'm down 75 grand. I'm up 90. I'm playing with house money. Like, I need to fucking pull out.
Yeah.
Why I'm still ahead. Right? Like, I don't want to lose the rest of the 50.
Yeah, and just some of those option contracts, you can lose your shirt. There's unlimited downside. So I don't do options. I don't get into that. That's
gambling.
Yeah, it's 100% gambling.
Like I just said, I was a gambling man.
If there are options out there where you're 100% at risk and there's an unlimited loss potential.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I watched it.
Don't anybody get the idea of like, oh, maybe I'll dip into this.
I'm trying to tell you a horror story here, people. I'm not trying to inspire you.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to motivate you to go into the.
I'll beat Trevor. I'll show him.
Go beat me. Beat me in terms of my losses.
Good luck.
Because I lost about $75,000.
Yeah.
So I was sweating, dude. I was sweating. I was down like 50 and I kept refreshing. A couple days later, I'm down like 75 G's, dude. And I'm just like, you know what? Fuck this, dude. And I hit sell. Okay. And I'm like, I'm still up 15 G's. No big deal. I went from fucking this shit's so easy, anybody can do it, to I'm on the edge of a cliff seeing if the wind's going to blow up my back or if I'm letting Jesus take the wheel right now. You know what I mean? Because I was just at such a low spot. And I wake up the next morning and I get a text from my buddy. Are you fucking seeing this, bro?
Oh, really?
And I'm like, I fucking don't even text him back. And I look up NVIDIA and it fucking
just sort of
skyrocketed. I lost 75 grand, but I would have made like $400,000.
Oh, really?
It was like 300. It was like a $400,000 swing in total between what I lost and what I would have gained, literally just by making an emotional decision, seeing a number on a screen rather than sticking to the plan and honoring what I did when I originally bought those contracts. I didn't let them play out. I got weak in the knees and I bitched out. Let's just call it what it is. I fucking panicked and I hit the sell button. So I know exactly what people are going through when they're seeing red and blood in the streets. Like, I probably should have called my homie instead of hitting sell and being like, bro, you said you were sure. And he could have said, bro, give it a week or two.
Yeah.
And it would have been absolute just game changer in terms of the result that I experienced. Yeah. But I didn't lean on somebody when I was in an emotional state. I honored the emotion. And because I honored an emotion when I was at a low, it cost me hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars. Yeah. I'm not saying to go run off and play that game, because we're all one day away, or 1 second away, or if we woulda.
Yeah, the coulda, what
coulda, shoulda, woulda.
Yeah.
I shoulda held.
Yeah.
Cool, but you fucking didn't. You're out 75 G's, but you're still up 15 in total, right? Yeah. And so it's like, that was a big, learning lesson for me. And I think that the lessons need to be painful. I think that you need to see how much sometimes it really costs you. Like, to me, it was like, now, like, even investing into crypto, I have $500,000 sitting in crypto. And obviously right now there's blood in the streets for most people. My average purchase price on Bitcoin is 49,000. So I'm still sitting pretty, and I'm fine, but I'm not panicked about it like I was when it was 2020.
Yeah.
And I was starting, that's 6 years ago, bro. I've matured 6 years since then, and have a little bit more diamond hands where I'm like, dude, I'm okay with the ups and downs. I didn't do this to try to get rich tomorrow. I'm doing this because I believe in something long-term, and I'm going to go through the ups and downs, but I needed either that experience or somebody that has experience to talk me off the ledge in some of those low moments. And so unfortunately I didn't get talked off the ledge. So I created the experience for myself, which was brutal, but I've learned from it, and I adjusted my approach in terms of how I manage my money. I don't even have my crypto accounts on my cell phone.
Yeah.
I don't ever log in and even look at them, bro. Like, what's the point? To get high when it's high and to get low when it's low? All you're doing is playing with your emotions. Mm-hmm. But if you don't plan on selling, what are you fucking doing?
Well, and that's a big thing too, is like, if you're playing the game of pick the winners and let them run, like, or if you're trying to be like timing the market type stuff like that, I'm not your guy, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's not the way.
You want people who want to play a long-term game.
Create a plan, and I'll tell clients this: like, stop looking at your accounts, because like, you have time is on your side, and what we're doing and planning eliminates that emotional need to go in there and check and see if you're up or down, because there's going to be good and there's going to be bad.
Yeah.
Like, the only thing I can guarantee is that the accounts are going to go up and they're going to go down.
Yeah.
Like, they're going to do both.
What you should do is log into their accounts, screenshot all the ups, so when it's down, you just send a massive email. Just remember. You felt pretty good when you saw this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I've had that conversation many times. Plenty of times with people that say, hey, look, this is why we're doing this. Like, this is the reason behind this. There'll be time to give advice for somebody that says, hey, look, the leaning on the tax side of it. Hey, this is why we're paying more tax this year, because over a lifetime, you'll have 4 times the value, and it's yours.
Is that because there's certain types of accounts, like versus other ones? Like, there's the, deferred tax accounts where it's like, hey, I can put money in it. Yes, I don't have to pay tax on that now. And then there's probably other ones, maybe with more upside, that it's not deferred tax, that they could just put in. And is that why you're saying that?
So investment wise, you're going to have the same upside potential for growth if it's tax deferred or
not
tax free.
Yeah.
So look at the 2 basic ones. You have a traditional 401k, a traditional IRA that's tax deferred, meaning you put the money in, you don't pay taxes on it. Versus a Roth account.
You can write it off.
You can write it off, yeah. So you put in, the limit this year is like $24,500 to put into a 401k. You don't pay taxes on that $24,500.
What's the $69,000 one? Is that a SEP?
No, the SEP. The SEP. There's the SEP and a simple, and I mix those up. I think the SEP one is like, depending on it's like 13,000, I think, and then it depends on like a 25% of your income. There's some rules to it that are on the contribution. So for a business owner, right?
Yeah.
Me, if I were to work just a regular company,
it's just
I'm not setting up a SEP IRA or a simple. That's a business owner type thing. And
so are they setting those up mainly for the tax?
It would be for a tax
strategy,
retirement
/ long-term planning.
Yeah, and also
trying to hit it from both ends.
And also employee retention benefit, right? Because if you have employees and you're like, hey, I want to put money away for employees, let me set up a SEP IRA. So I'll put some money in for them. They can put some money in. We'll go from there.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you think about that. So there's the traditional side going back of put the money in, don't pay taxes on the contribution, or put money into like a Roth 401k. You don't get the tax break now. You pay taxes on the contribution, but that money in retirement in the future is tax free. You pull out 100% of it, you don't pay a dime in taxes.
Yeah.
So one, you're in partnership with the IRS for the rest of your life. The second, you've cut the IRS out completely.
Yeah.
I mean,
And guys, we discussed this before earlier in the podcast, as when I was alluding to that we had a conversation of different tax brackets, and it's like, obviously and it goes back to the right now thing. Like, hey, I have a high income, I need to lower my tax bracket right now, and there's going to be some things that you could do. Because it is up to 25% of your income if you're self-employed, right? Up to like 69,000 is the cap.
Yeah,
right.
there you
So
go. Yeah.
like if you make 400,000, it doesn't mean you can put in 100 grand. It's still capped.
Yep.
So you contribute 69,000, and if you're at a 30% tax bracket, that's what, $21,000 that you're saving. So people are like, "Oh, cool, I'm saving 21 grand today," but if you pull out in 20 years or 30 years and the tax bracket is now even higher because of the debt that we're in, you might be paying a bigger bill down the road versus paying your taxes on the money that you make, taking some of the money that's in savings and then set that up and then get it tax free at the end, is what you're saying.
Yeah, you think about that. So let's go back to that $69,000 amount. You put that in, you save $21,000.
Mm-hmm.
But let's say that $69,000 grows to $200,000 in 15 to 20 years.
Yeah.
So even if you're at a 10% tax bracket, which I don't know if you would be, like if you're a 10% tax bracket, when you pull that money out, you then pay $20,000 in tax. So you're like net the same. Like you saved the tax and you paid the taxes about the same. So like
It's not going to be the same.
it's not
Tax bracket is going to only go up.
Yeah.
It's not going down. You know what I mean? It's just not.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Like
so.
It's not. 20 years from now, we're not going to be paying the same taxes. That's
No, and
just a fact.
you think about, and also to the person that's in the position to put away 70 grand probably has the ability to save quite a bit more, and their nest egg is going to be quite substantial.
So are you saying potentially, again, every situation's different, right?
Mm-hmm.
And obviously it has to be, what are your goals? What are this? Do you have high income? Are you trying to reduce your tax? What are you thinking about you do all the questions with them to really decide that. But really what I'm picking up, it could be more advantageous for somebody, instead of putting 69 grand in, they pay their 20 grand in tax and they're left with, in this case, it was 21 grand is what we said. But let's minus 20 grand off of the top, or 21,000 off the top, and you're left with, $49,000. What you're saying, essentially, in some cases, that could be a better route, where you're contributing that 48 to 49,000 after you paid tax on that 69, to where when you do receive the money later, it becomes tax free and it has grown.
Yeah, well, so let's just be clear. So if you put the $69,000 into a Roth, let's say it's a Roth 401k, that full $69,000 goes in. The $21,000 tax bill would be paid in April or quarterly. So it's not like your $69,000 contribution gets shaved to where it's only $48,000.
No, it doesn't get shaved.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying,
if you're tracking cost basis, we'll call it.
It's a thought experiment.
Yeah, I
right?
get you. Okay, so I just don't want somebody to be like,
I've got 69 grand right now, and I have a choice. I can either claim this on my taxes and pay taxes on that 69, or I can go contribute it over here and not pay any tax on that 69 until I pull it out in 20 years from now.
Yeah.
Right? Tax deferred, meaning you're deferring taxes.
So you're just kicking
for a later, a later date, right?
Yep.
And essentially what I'm saying is, in some cases, it's probably better for people to claim that 69,000, pay the 21, have the difference, and put it in a tax-free retirement account. So where when it does grow, it's growing tax-free, rather than this one over here growing. And if you're still at a 20 or 30% tax bracket, now you're paying 20 or 30% on the 200. Now this 50 grand or 48,000 that you put in, maybe it's not at 200 in 15 years. Maybe it's 150, but the full 150 is yours.
Yeah.
And this 200 over here, you got to pay a 30% tax bracket. That's 60 grand.
Yeah.
Now you're down to 240. This person is actually more net positive by having 250 or 260 over that 15 years. They're 10 or 15 grand ahead of you. Essentially, what I was trying to say is, in some cases, that might be a better option for some people than
Yeah,
deferring.
That's counter to a lot of stuff you'll hear because everyone's like, again, the here and now, take the tax break now, get the tax reduction, reduce your taxes, get as low as possible. And we want to pay
in
the
some
right.
cases, it depends on what's important to the person, right? Everybody's going to be different, and everyone's going to choose what they feel most comfortable with.
Mm-hmm.
From my understanding about what you do is it's literally just that. It's advising people, and then at the end of the day, they have to make their own decisions, but you're there to be a reasonable, knowledgeable voice in their ear to help answer questions and guide them and show them what's available to them and help them make what decision aligns with maybe their long-term goals.
Yeah, helping them see around the corners and understand, hey, what's the blind spots? What am I not thinking about? This is what I hear. Is that good or bad advice? What's the pros and cons of it? Because what you'll hear online is like, reduce your taxes now. Pay the lowest amount of taxes. Do this, right?
Well, why do you hear that though, bro?
Because
it's sexy.
Yeah, it's trendy.
And they know everybody wants right now to put money in their pocket right now.
Everyone hates taxes. There's no one like, I love taxes. Well, maybe Easier Accounting likes taxes, but
oh, I hate taxes. I hate tax. Everybody hates the government in terms of taxes. And right now I just hate the fucking government. Taxes or no taxes. Bunch of fucking corrupt pedophiles out there, It's up to us out here to band together as the collective, the people to work together to figure out how to make our future better and brighter. It's about knowing the right people that have experience where you don't have experience. It's leveraging other people's expertise and their knowledge. You're not going to be knowledgeable with everything. Fucking go 100 miles an hour in the niche that you're in and master that, but then also utilize other people's skills and knowledge in their niche that they've mastered. And then you have the ability to multiply at that point, right? And so the government's not going to come save us. All we're really talking about at the end of the day is to figure out how to live a high quality of life, reduce stress by knowing that our future is better than our past, and creating a little bit of comfort knowing that 10 or 15 years down the road, I'm going to be okay, because too many people don't do it, because when they start committing to something like this, they actually have to really dig in and see how bad their situation is. And it's almost easier to just avoid digging in and seeing how bad it truly is. It's almost like a business, man. People aren't looking at their numbers. They're not making decisions off of numbers. You're looking at a bank account and be like, I think I'm good. It's going down, it's going up. And you're really not making educated decisions because you're not utilizing the numbers to make decisions. You're utilizing a number, which is the number in the bank account, to make your decisions. And so, I think everybody should look for ways to reduce taxes and pay the least amount as possible. The question is does it align with your long-term goals? Mm-hmm. That's the only question that I have. And if the answer is yes, by all means, rock on. Go do tax deferred. If you feel good about that and you're okay paying, maybe more later. Yeah. And you're just, again, worried about right now. That's the balance. Mm-hmm. Is how do we take care of right now and the future? Because some people don't even have the money barely to get by to take care of now. So they're like, dude, I'm not even worried about the future because I can barely get by right now.
Yeah, we're waiting till Friday to get groceries.
Dude, it was, back in the day when when there was checks, dude, I watched my mom. We would go to the grocery store on like a Wednesday or whatever, and she'd write a check for the groceries because she knew it wouldn't clear till like 3 business days. Yeah. And she was going to get paid on Friday. It was like a little loan to yourself, cutting a check, knowing that you're going to get your paycheck and you'll be able to deposit it and it'll be there before the check even clears. Nowadays you can't really do the system like that. They're like, decline, you ain't got it, bitch. Go somewhere else. Food stamps, here's an application. It prints out, shit like that. God, how embarrassing would that be? Oh. If somebody's at the checkout, it's just EBT cards.
Yeah, can we maybe go to that special lane over there for people like you?
Dude, I like all of that is true and real. So then the next question becomes this, like with the annual fee of $3,000 to work with you to get, your advice and to be able to have access to you and go over these things and be educated and feel good about the decisions that you're making. Is there like, usually a minimum in terms of like, hey, I like to only work with people that are willing to invest at least $500 a month or $1,000 or $2,000 or like, is there minimums, maximums, anything like that? Or is it just case by case?
No, I don't have
vibe it out.
I don't have account minimums. So, and that's intentionally because again, helping people as they accumulate, I don't need to take on assets to be able to give advice.
Yeah.
And so it really just comes down to people that want to stick with the process. I will graduate or eliminate somebody if they're not responsive. Like if somebody's like, hey, look, here's the advice, here's all this, they're not doing it. If it's a burden or frustration on my end, because some people are like, yeah, I want to do stuff. I really want to do this. Let's put things together. And then we'll go through all the work of putting it together, but then there's no execution. And it's like, look, we're wasting my time and your time because I could be helping somebody that really values this.
Yeah.
And it's not beneficial for me to put forth the effort to you if you're not going to
do anything.
To reciprocate, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's going to be one of it, but there's no account minimums. And it could be that somebody, if they're working for like a company, the contributions will go to their employer 401k. Mm-hmm. So it's not like I say, hey, let's set something on the side. Maybe it will be. Maybe the recommendation will be, hey, let's build something outside of work.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's another part of it too. Is like, hey, look, the minimum planning fee is $3,000 a year. Simply
from there, it's up to you to decide based upon what you want to invest, whether it's $5,000 a year, $20,000 a year, $100,000 a year, just depending on your comfort level.
Yeah, 100%, and then we'll go from there. And
in terms of frequency, is it important to do monthly? Is there?
So I reach out. Most of it's quarterly. It's a quarterly meeting, and then
in terms of
meeting.
In terms of like making contributions.
Okay,
something like that. Like
it's
just find a number
monthly, like your mortgage,
and just set it and forget it.
Yeah, I did something recent here on this, or made a video about this recently. But a guy I worked with that was wanting to save for their kids' college savings accounts, and they would just like end of the month they'd be like, well, let's put whatever we can in, and it was like we put a little bit here, skip a month, put a little bit there, skip a couple months. And it just doesn't ever gain any traction. So like monthly is either set up to where it's once a month at the beginning, or every 2 weeks you make a contribution, and then that just snowballs and builds momentum.
So what you're telling me is consistency in frequency of the consistency wins again.
Yeah, surprise.
Wow. I think I've talked about being disciplined and consistent and having plan and being forward thinking and some of those things over the last 6 years on this fucking show.
The craziest thing is you think about it is like you complicate it so far. There's like, if you just boil it down to the basics, like consistent and intentional.
Yeah.
Like if you were just those two, intentional and consistent.
And in some cases, you only have to be intentional for a small period of time. And then from there, it's just up to the consistency. Mm-hmm. The intentional part about it is the strategy behind it and what you're wanting to do and get clarification on what you're trying to execute on. It's like, cool, I'm intentional. Cool, I understand that. Cool. That's something that I want to move forward with. At that point, you set it and forget it in terms of the auto deposits or,
it's not a thought
contributions.
Anymore.
Yeah,
you just like happening. It's just I am now that person. Like I'm the person that saves each month.
Yeah.
Instead of being the person that like I save when I can.
What would you say is like a low but yet solid number if somebody's, let's say, 30 years old right now? Like they don't have super high income. They have a little bit of a wiggle room there. Is like $500 a month for 30 years. Is that a little too low? I mean, it's better than nothing, obviously.
If you're 30 years old and you're saving $500 a month, so you're $6,000 a year over a long period of time, it's going to be a pretty good thing. So yeah, if you're
it's like $180,000 over the course of that 30 years that you contributed.
Yeah,
but then you got all the effect to it. Stuff.
You'll see a mass amount of growth.
Could it potentially be $500,000 or more? Compounded growth over 30 years.
Over $500,000. But you think about this too, that 500 is not going to stay 500. It's going to be more. You're eventually going to start earning more, and it's going to be like, okay, I'm doing 500 now. I can go 550, and then the next year will be 600, and then so you're just slowly inching up.
When do you see people get most excited about what they're doing? Is it usually 5 or 10 years down the road, they're really looking at it and being like, holy shit, this thing is really doing what I've went through the ups and downs. He's talked me off the ledge And now I'm starting to see that it's bearing fruit. Like,
I would say it's there is some of it there, but it's also too at that 1 year mark when you go back and you look, say, hey, last year this time we were here, and now we're here.
now
Like
you
that
got
first-
15 grand that
first-
you
well,
didn't
yeah,
have
first
your
initial-
whatever.
Yeah, you
know?
take that big first initial step.
Yeah.
You're like, hey, we're here,
Yeah.
and now that's the normal.
Yeah.
And then they build from
That
there.
progress and
Yeah.
seeing a balance
Mhm.
in an account that's accumulating interest.
Yeah.
After a year, they're like, holy shit, that's a real number right there. And then they start getting excited and be like, hey,
Yeah, a little
what
bit
more
more.
can I do?
Yeah,
You know,
yeah, the
what
momentum
would it be
builds.
if I did 600 for this year and then
Mhm.
just continue almost like a little game
Yeah, 100%.
with themselves to see
Yeah.
what they can do to affect that number at the end of each year. You know?
Yeah, and it goes back to our savings rate for this year is that we were saving at 10%. What would it look like if we were saving at 12%?
Yeah.
What were we saving at 14%? And then
Once
how do
you
you
start doing
tick
up
up?
those little numbers like that, like from 10 to 12, that extra 2%,
Mhm.
I mean, that could be hundreds of thousands of dollars over the course of 30 years, $250,000 or something. You
Yeah,
know?
it's potentially hundreds of thousands over 30 years, but then you stretch a full lifetime, 90 plus years.
Yeah.
There's millions.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
crazy. What's the dumbest thing that you've seen somebody done?
A lot of the selling at the wrong time.
That's
Yeah,
pretty much, that's the
yeah,
one thing that you have to worry about
Yeah, that's
at
one
any
thing too,
given
is-
time.
Yeah,
Do you reach
there
out
was-
to people when there's blood in the streets and be like, hey,
Yeah, pump
I,
brakes.
hey, I,
Yeah.
I see it too, you
Yeah.
guys.
Yeah.
I'm
You're
checking my emails and
you're
my phone's
thinking about it.
ringing.
Yeah.
I know what you're thinking about.
Yeah.
Keep it chill, bro.
I had one lady a couple years ago where she was again older. She was making just enough. She owned 2 houses. She lived in one and the other sat vacant, and she was barely squeaking by to make it.
Mm-hmm.
But she would not sell the second home. So I'm like, this home, home prices are what they are. It was paid off,
Yeah.
so it would have definitely allowed her to live a more comfortable life. But
Yeah.
she was like, it couldn't sell it, partly because it was the
In their family.
yeah,
Or-
her husband had passed away, and she's like, in her mind, she was going to be a landlord. She was going to rent it out, but there was no way she was ever going to rent it out. Like the carpet hadn't been changed since 1990 or something, and it was
Some people get weird attachments to
they
shit, bro.
They anchor on these things
Yeah.
that like we can't move
They
or change,
attach so much meaning to something,
and it
even though that
like you can
if they
barely
let
afford
go
groceries.
of it,
Yeah,
they could live a better life. But the meaning that they've attached to it means more to them than $500,000 in a better life.
Yeah.
You know, and I've just seen people get attached to things in almost like an obsessive way, to where like nobody else can have that. And I mean,
yeah,
where I live up in Virgin, it's a small area. A lot of people have lived there forever. And this rich guy came in and he bought, there's the river on my property, and then there's another neighborhood on the other side of the river right there. And that's like a new subdivision, nice,
Mhm.
new. And so right directly across the river, he also bought a bunch of land that had a couple older houses on it.
mm-hmm.
And he's like, I'm taking this house out.
Yeah,
I'm demoing this one. This one I'm going to keep and rent or whatever. And as he goes to demo, the lady that used to live in the house, that grew up in the house, was standing in front of the house. You can't tear this house down. This is my child. That house has so much meaning to her. She thinks that she still owns the damn
Mhm.
thing. And so he's like, I'll sell it to you if you want.
mm-hmm.
You can buy it. This is capitalism. I spent my hard-earned money to do it. Now I get to do what I want with it. But if it means that much to you, I'm willing to sell it to you so that you could preserve it or do whatever you want with it. But if you're not going to do that, I'm building a barn right there
yeah,
next to the other house.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so it's just, I think it's important for people to understand like how their brain works. And you got to be very careful about the things that you attach meaning to.
mm-hmm.
Because if you attach too much meaning to things that really aren't that meaningful, like I know growing up in a home or having it in a family, yeah, you want to preserve it, but eventually there's going to be a point where it's like, it's time to move on. You will die.
yeah,
Somebody else is going to own that home eventually. You might as well make the decision that's right for you in terms of your finances and your family's finances moving forward for the next generation, rather than having a fucking piece of value just sitting there rotten.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so it's nutty. How do people find you if they want to connect with you, or if they have questions? Are you pretty good about just hopping on calls, answering some questions, trying to vibe it out, see if it's a good fit, and kind of deciding from there.
So on the website there, you can go and schedule a call, get on the calendar. And,
what is it? Just artstoneprivatewealth.com?
Yeah.
And then there's just a
just pretty simple.
lead form booking thing.
I did the website myself, so it's pretty basic.
Yeah.
You shouldn't get lost.
Yeah. If you get lost on it, it's ABC 123. We'll probably phone number and email people. He'll call you.
Yeah.
It's really not
There's
that
a schedule
difficult.
button right up there.
Don't overcomplicate it like you've done with everything in your life.
Yeah,
And
make it
overthink it. Yes. Just do it.
So
And then from there, go through the process. And so, man, what a awesome podcast. And I appreciate you, coming down from up north and getting out of the snow and coming to visit us in the 77-degree weather down here, bro.
Yeah.
You got a golf trip coming up today, tomorrow.
Yeah. So I'll head down today, and then we'll golf Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So
we call us gentlemen, we like to call it golf, but really what we're doing is we're just out there fucking around with the friends, just getting outside with homies, just getting fresh air out of the office. That's really what it is.
Yeah.
Getting
pissed off on a little wet ball.
I call it whack fuck. You want to go play whack fuck? Because it's like whack. Oh, fuck. Another one out of bounds. It's all good. I'm with my friends and I'm outside getting sun. So I hope you enjoy that golf trip, and I appreciate you being here.
I appreciate it. It's kind of surreal being here. Been listening for a while. Going through
that's awesome.
The real business owners and all that stuff. So
hey, I've had that happen quite a bit. Listeners end up being on the podcast. If you've got a cool story and you're a listener, send me an email, Trevor@realbusinessowners.com. I'll review it and look at it. And if you're willing to fly out to St. George, I love a good story.
Mm-hmm.
I love a good story, and anybody that has a specific piece of knowledge or experience that you feel like that would be valuable to others, dude. Here's a fucking microphone. Tell me about it. You know what I mean? So I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode as much as I did. Keep kicking ass. Make sure you rate and review the show. And if you have financial needs or questions, make sure you hit up Daniel here. Take care, guys.